Good morning, everyone. You're watching Trade Australia. Today's episode's all around industry associations and how they can help you navigate all the situation that we're all faced with now through this pandemic. Supply chain has been showcased and highlighted how important it really is, and so many importers, exporters, and service providers are really struggling. They need as much support and help they can get. So this episode around the industry associations is designed to showcase who can help you and how they can help you navigate this time. Our first guest is Kyle Rogers, the Victorian Tasmanian Director for Supply Chain Logistics Association of Australia. Hi, Kyle. Thanks for joining us, mate. Great to see you as usual.
Thank you, Lawrence. Good to see you.
You too, mate. Kyle, firstly, tell us about your role with SCLAA, and then let's talk about the type of things that SCLA's been doing around Australia over the last month and a bit to really help companies with this crisis.
Yeah, no, thanks, Lawrence. So it's been quite different with all the states having different restrictions. So there's no sort of silver bullet. But look, generally speaking, we've been keeping going online. We've been having lots of webinars that people have been seeing at least once a week. That's a mix of national partners and non-partners as well. So a lot of the webinars are free, and all webinars, generally speaking, are free for our members. And some, a small cost of $20 or so for webinars. But generally speaking, yeah, we're running webinar every week, so keep people entertained. We ran coffee mornings when the pandemic was at its peak, and things are starting to open up in other states such as Queensland and WA, with just yesterday a golf day released for later this year, Queensland networking event in October, WA post-lockdown get-together, actually on the 14th of this, is it today or next month? I can just look at the calendar, and a few webinars coming up in the next couple of weeks around warehousing, productivity, in a time of change. But more importantly, one thing I'll mention, Lawrence, is we've successfully launched our mentoring program across the Eastern Seaboard. So we started in Melbourne. We had 24 mentors, 24 mentees, and we matched them. And we did that over Zoom. Yeah. And that was released, and that was implemented this week as well in New South Wales and Queensland. So look, someone who loves the mentoring theme, it's a really good initiative for the wider supply chain.
Yeah, look, really congratulations on that mentorship, Kyle. I know how successful it has been, and you've played such a leading role in delivering that. So congratulations to you personally and to the association overall. I think more than ever, it really is a fantastic way to support companies, especially people who need that extra bit of advice and coaching and just a bit of support as they go through this supply chain crisis as well. You mentioned, Kyle, about the differences between the states and how difficult that is to navigate. Obviously, we can't do the golf days and things like that in WA, unfortunately, in Melbourne. But I have seen so much activity that SCLA's been putting out, which is great. What are there some challenges that have been a common theme for your members that you've had to try and reach out and support them with? Are there any common themes of challenges?
Look, 100%, Lawrence. Look, one of the main reasons people join our association is because we run so many personal physical events. It's almost like that sort of tool or that armory has been taken away from us. So we've really had to ramp up the webinars. We've really had to implement the mentoring programs. We've really had to implement coffee mornings, one-to-one calls with our members, which a lot of our members here in Victoria listening will know. So we've really had to do things a little bit differently, and just reminding them that this isn't forever. This is a short time, to bear with us, and we want to keep investing money back into the association. So we've got lots of plans to update the website and a few other things to make it more interactive. But it's just being able to see the forest for the trees at the moment, Lawrence, that hopefully by the end of the year and into early next year, we can be back out there having events safely, depending on things are, but also the awards is coming up, which is usually in the end of November. It's going to be pushed back to January, February, and it'll probably be in a Queensland or WA or maybe Sydney again this year. Look, given where Melbourne's at, might not be there. It was earmarked to be in Melbourne, but given how things are at the moment, may not be here. So look, we've really had to ramp up and offer more value, especially around webinars, and keep giving more webinars, asking for more feedback from our members to what they want to see. So just had to shift things up because me, a lot of people listening to this have met me at an event, and obviously I'm itching to get out there too. So it's just being patient, but we are working in the background to make sure that we have sandbank a lot of events, so that when the doors open again and we can get out there and we can have beers and we can have drinks and we can shake hands, whatever how long that takes, we'll be there to support the industry. And just to extend on that one bit further, one thing the pandemic has taught a lot of us is you're only as strong as your weakest link in the
Yeah.
supply chain. From manufacturing overseas to inboard shipping lines to wharf cartage to warehousing to distribution to procurement. A lot of people are working together, and I've had some really interesting conversations with other industry leaders around a lot of companies and people, senior owners, working with competitors that they wouldn't have worked with before. Because as we know, this is industry, it's very cutthroat. Everyone wants to win business. But if you're a warehousing company and you've got customers, you need good transport companies, you need good wharf cartage providers, you need good freight forwarders to link in. So I think out there, especially Melbourne, especially last week when things were going a little bit crazy, I heard a lot of competitors were tapping each other on the shoulder and say, hey, let's support each other through this, because it's not about us, it's about the customer, it's about the consumer, and making sure that we can get the things that we want and need in front of us and on the shelves and online.
Yeah, no, really great work, and I think it's a really good discussion point that you've touched on there, Kyle, about the collaboration and how the industry has really come together to support each other, which it has been more competitive in the past, but now people see that they want to help everyone survive. It has been a real strong camaraderie between the industry and even the associations, as you mentioned as well. So it's a really great work that you're doing and continues to do. I know you've got probably one of the toughest gigs being the Victorian TAS director, with so much navigating this a really harsh lockdown here and how that's impacted your members. But mate, you always do a great job. You're always there for the industry, so congratulations. And look, before we wrap up this segment, what advice would you give to current importers, exporters, and service providers? And what other things are coming up for SCLA? I know you talked about the awards and some of these other events, but are there anything that they should be looking out for that in the next couple of months?
Yeah, look, it's just to get online and follow the page and keep your eyes peeled. There's some really cool events coming up. Again, one thing I mentioned before is mentoring. That's big. Now that we're running the mentoring program in Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane. If you want to get involved with that, please get in touch with your respective state. I'm sure if you're a mentor, there might be a mentee waiting for a mentor, or vice versa. So if you want to be involved more with the industry to give back, please get in touch. And just yesterday, I'll actually be giving a presentation on mentoring, which I've given a few times, that it's going to be free for not just our members, but the whole industry.
Right.
So I'll be doing a webinar, which will be on the 12th of September, I believe. I'm just having a look at the calendar. It's for everyone to listen on my views on mentoring, not as someone who is a great mentor, but someone who's had great mentors along the way, especially through COVID. When there might have been struggles, they're having that sort of base around you for support. So look, lots of really cool events coming up, webinars for Victoria only at this point, but nationally, I think the other states are starting to have events in the coming months.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, mate. You're always generous with your time. Really appreciate it. And thanks for all the stuff you do for the industry as well. Stay safe, mate, and look forward to catching up with your beer when we can.
Yeah, there'll be plenty of those.
All right, mate. All the best. Cheers. So you just heard from Kyle Rogers there, from the Victorian and Tasmanian Director for SCLAA. Check out their website. They've got a huge range of diverse events. They are really supporting the industry to navigate that. And that mentorship program is amazing. So definitely reach out to Kyle or the other state directors or the association as a whole, and they'll definitely help you navigate who can help you with a mentorship program. We really see you through. So stick around after the break. We're going to be joined by Zoran Kostadinoski from IFCBA, and we'll tell you about what all that means straight after this. Cheers.
Do your association members want to improve their global trade and supply chain skills? ATLC can work with you to design and deliver group training and workshops specific to your industry sector. Leverage our expertise to help your members grow globally faster. Our global networks can open up a world of new market opportunities for your members. We regularly work with overseas trade agencies to support inbound and outbound delegations too. ATLC has the programs your industry association needs. Contact us to discuss your association's trade and supply chain goals.
Welcome back, everyone. You're watching Trade Australia. I'm your host, Lawrence Christoffelsz. Today's show is all about industry associations and how they're here to help you navigate this pandemic. Now we're joined by Zoran Kostadinoski. Zoran's a head of border and biosecurity at the newly formed International Forwarders and Customs Brokers Association of Australia. Thanks so much for joining me again, Zoran. How are you?
Good morning, Lawrence, and thanks for having me on the show. I'm very well, and I hope you are too.
Yeah, very safe and well. A bit frustrated and looking forward to going for a beer sometime soon with you, but it could be a couple of weeks away, hopefully. But before we kick in, tell us about this new merger. So the International Forwarders and Customs Brokers Association of Australia. I know it's a bit of a mouthful, but tell us what that all means and how the two entities have come together.
Yeah, 1st of July 2020, the Customs Brokers and Forwarders Council of Australia, who has a 116-year-old history, and the Australian Federation of International Forwarders, the two boards decided to merge and form a single industry body. We believe in today's environment where companies are no longer only forwarders or customs broking, they provide end-to-end supply chain logistics services to importers and exporters. It is important to have one single voice for this industry sector. So today, the main core role is to represent international forwarders, customs brokers, and others by downstream effect on importers and exporters as facilitators. These service providers help the trading community to move goods in and out of the country.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, I think most freight forwarders these days have got their own customs department. Gone are the days where there was a lot of dedicated forwarders and dedicated brokers. They've all sort of really merged over those last few years. So congratulations on the merger, and it's great to see that you brought both entities together to be bigger and stronger for the Australian industry overall. So well done, mate, and to all the stakeholders. So congratulations. I wanted to ask you, Zoran. I mean, none of us have gone through this situation before. This pandemic has changed the way everyone looks at supply chain, everyone looks at business. What are some of the, how are they coping? How are their members coping with the current situation? And what's the sort of programs that you guys are offering to support them?
Look, our industry sector has been very resilient. We've gone through a lot of change, and that's due to a lot of regulatory change. Brokers and forwarders operate in a complex environment with a lot of licensing and regulation, where there will be licensing for brokers, licensing for depots, from both border and biosecurity perspective. So we are very resilient. So our members have been able to operate from home under the current restrictions we are facing in Victoria and even other states where people are being careful. The systems that they operate are integrated, and they are doing well at the moment. Despite all the challenges, we're finding that our members are able to help their clients to facilitate trade. So resilience and the systems they've got, they have been able to help the industry to still continue to operate essential services.
Great. No, that's really well done, Zoran. I think that it's funny how people have had to adapt. As you say, there have been a resilience around the whole sector, and I think that one good thing is a positive out of this situation is how important supply chains have been recognised, not just as essential services, but also by customers themselves. How important the supply chain sector and the service providers like the forwarders and brokers, how pivotal their roles are, because they have been sort of out of sight, out of mind for many decades. So it has, in many ways, emphasised that importance of this sector.
Look, the learning and the positive out of this pandemic is that too often supply chain is taken for granted by many of the people are not involved in supply chain, because they expect products to just turn up. All of a sudden, I see even at home with my kids, as soon as they buy something online, it hasn't arrived in a day. The world's going to end. So what it's done, it is positive for our sector that they are recognising the importance of supply chain. And what that will do is provide opportunities for the new generation, the new leaders, to come into the logistics supply chain, because it is a fulfilling area. There's a lot to learn. It is dynamic, it's exciting, it's different, it's challenging. So there's very, very positive signs going forward, and trade will grow. So supply chain movement will become even more important and critical in the new normal. So I think there are some positive signs out of the pandemic.
Yeah, look, absolutely, Zoran. And you've sort of led me to one of the questions I wanted to ask you today. So CBFCA and AFIP before were really strong in providing professional development, training programs, and I'm sure that is going to get bigger and better as well. But as you just mentioned, now people, they understand the importance of supply chain, and from a recruitment and industry development, I think people now are interested to get involved and really want to grow their career in supply chain. So what are the type of programs and training solutions that you're doing with the new association, with the merger?
Because our industry sector is very specialised in some way, the border clearance, you need to be a licensed freight forwarding, you need different systems than just being an importer and exporter. We, as an association, also a registered training organisation under the International Trade Logistics College, is our online college to provide that development and skills for the freight forwarding and also the broking sector with those two diplomas. Our members have obligation greater than any lawyer and accountant, and also licensing and penalties that are applied for any errors in emission. However, this sector sometimes is not as recognised as the legal sector, the accounting and other, but the responsibilities and the skills that are required to facilitate trade and understand every regulatory and supply chain movement, it is amazing. So we will continue to provide training because the new normal will require different skill sets, different supply chain managers using different technologies going forward. So life will not be the same as we were used to the traditional training. I think we need to skill people to be, able to cope with the future changes in supply chain.
Yeah, I think you're right, Zoran. There's so many moving targets with international trade, and it is surprising. That point you just mentioned around people value the importance and the liabilities that lawyers take, accountants take, but the liabilities that brokers take as well. It's an important declaration, and they are literally the front line of defence when it comes to protecting the Australian borders. So it is an important and high level of responsibility in their field. So it is important to make sure that they're up to date, but they're also equally recognised by the broader community as playing that pivotal role to protect Australian borders and the community and agricultural, all those type of things.
Yeah, certainly. So on top of the diplomas, we also manage the continued professional development for licensed brokers. They need to maintain the points. So as the RTO, we do all that training. Also the freight forwarding short courses, dangerous goods, movements, everything to do with the IATA. So that's where the strength of the association is, and we will continue to support the industry to be skilled for the future.
Yeah, fantastic. Zoran, the other thing I want to ask you as well, I mean, what are some of the takeaways around the sector? What do you think companies have learned that they can implement post-pandemic? What is there anything that you've come back from your members thinking, oh yeah, this is something we need to improve upon? Obviously, training is one of those because it does emphasise cross-skilling and also almost staff backup scenarios, because if people are on leave or you can't have everything in one person's head.
Certainly, Lawrence, and it's what is very important for our sector to make sure that the businesses continue to invest, not only in training, but also to understand that you can't put your eggs in one basket. For too long, I think just in time, put everything in one basket, not investing in technology will impact on businesses. In order to survive going forward, you need to look at diversity. You've got to look at your client base. You've got to look at your supplier base. You also have to look at digital world. What are the technologies that the clients would need, end-to-end visibility that is evolving at the moment? Resilience and education and training continues, because to do all those things, it goes back to, if you don't have the right training and for your workforce, they won't be able to meet those future demands. So that's why our focus will continue to be on that area of education.
Sure. Thanks, Zoran. Look, as you said, the demands are going to increase. It's going to be more complex. I think there will be more biosecurity and border security regulations coming through. I think we can see that already. And your association is going to play a really important leading part in making sure the industry stays up to date and can navigate that properly. Just before I let you go, what are the current sort of border clearance questions or any issues? I know there's some stink bugs have sort of raised their head again. Are there any current things that you want to put forward to the audience that they need to stay aware of?
Look, some risk for Australia from a biosecurity perspective is the upcoming BMSB season. The department is trying to run some sessions for the trading partners offshore. They encourage companies to go and attend those sessions and learn more about it so they can prepare for that. There's also a campaign about protection on Capra beetles. Capra beetle is becoming another pest. So you can see that biosecurity are taking that seriously, and that will impact a little bit on trade and offshore certification. Yep. At the border seems to be okay. Clearance, we're managing. They are essential services. There are sometimes delays around the PPEs that come into the country, and that is because Border Force is referring certain PPEs to the TGA for yep. verification or authenticity, or whether they're used for medical. So we're working through the Border Force to make sure that process improves. But overall, the border is working efficiently at the moment to facilitate the trade.
Great. So always a pleasure to have you on the show, Zoran, and you're our regular go-to for all things border clearance and trade specialty matters. So always appreciate the generosity with your time. It's good to see you. Good to see you fit and healthy, and look forward to catching up in person sometime soon. And look, definitely recommend all of our viewers to reach out, check out the new website for International Forwarders and Customs Brokers Association of Australia, IFCBAA, and check it out because there's so many great programs and support courses and industry growth opportunities there as well. So thanks again, Zoran. Look forward to speaking to you again very soon on the show. Thank
you, Lawrence, and have a great day.
You too. Cheers. So you just heard from Zoran Kostadinoski from the newly formed IFCBA, which is an amalgamation of the old CBFCA and AFIF. They're doing a great job. They're really going to lead the way in how companies can stay up to date. And you heard there firsthand how important it is to make sure your team is fully upskilled and not only cross-skilled, I should say, as well. So it's important to spread the load and give yourself some strong contingency planning as well for your business going forward. Thanks for joining us. Ticking up after the break, and we'll be joined with Karyn Welsh from CILT. So we'll be joined with her soon to wrap up the last segment of the show. Cheers.
Have your products, warehousing, or distribution requirements changed in the past 12 to 24 months? There's a reason the world's best companies regularly tender their supply chain services. Professional tender management ensures you're getting the best pricing and solutions available for your business. ATLC delivers customized tender management programs for freight forwarding, warehousing, and distribution services. ATLC's programs deliver real and measurable results by only inviting suitable service providers to compete for your business. Simply tell us about your specific business needs. We design and manage the entire process for you. ATLC goes to market and does all the work, however you get to make the final independent awarding decisions. Contact us today and we'll help you get the most out of your supply chain partners.
Welcome back, everyone. You're watching Trade Australia. Today's episode is all around industry associations and how they're here to help you navigate this crazy situation of the pandemic. You've heard from Kyle Rogers from SCLAA, then Zoran Kostadinoski from IFCBAA, and now another acronym, CILT, has got their CEO, Karyn Welsh. Hi, how are you, Karyn?
Good, thanks. How are you, Lawrence?
Karyn, just for the broader audience, I'm sure many have heard of CILT, but I know you're such a big global important association. But for those of you who may not have heard, can you explain what CILT is and the acronym and how you all support the industry?
Okay, it is CILT Australia, probably is the correct pronunciation. Yeah. I get corrected as well, don't worry, I think it's an Australian thing. It's actually the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, and we are the Australian branch. We're part of CILT International, which is the head office is in the UK. We are a global membership. It is represented in 36 plus countries, and we have 35,000 plus members globally. In Australia, we focus into predominant areas, pretty much professional development, obviously, making sure that our members hold skills that are still relevant for the industry. And we also run events, and we also provide some support to our members where we can, and tap into the international network of expertise that we have amongst our branches.
Great.
We are an industry, we're really a registered charity, to be completely honest.
Okay.
We do have a humanitarian aid element to the organisation, more so in the other branches around the Southeast Asia area, more so than what we have here. Although we have provided support through our member base and the goods that they're able to assist with in the bushfires and things like that, that we've had of recent times.
Yeah, great work, Karyn. And I know how your role's always been important, and CILT here in Australia has been a go-to for transport and for the whole industry sector. And I can just imagine with all these transport companies, truck drivers, and even just broader supply chain, trying to navigate all the different laws across borders and permits, it must be a minefield. So I'm guessing that you guys have been probably inundated with a lot of questions and support requests from your members. Would that be correct?
Yeah, true. For us, like a lot of industry associations, keeping up to date with all the changes and as they occur, when the borders are closed, when they're open, what permits are required, what can get through, what can't get through, and making sure that those sorts of details are posted onto our website for our members to access as quickly as they can. Yeah. Also, the support that's out on government initiatives, government incentives, and obviously some assistance there with the JobKeeper, Job Seeker programs. Some of the ATO benefits, some of the relief packages that the government's providing, getting that out to our members as soon as possible. ATO has also been a very good support in providing us with bulletins that we can post out to our members as well and give them some reference sites. So the government is being very supportive to all associations in providing that information so that we can get that out to our members.
Great. And Karyn, one of the themes that has sort of emerged through this morning's discussion is that even with the other associations, companies have recognised the importance of personal development and making sure that their members are continuing to upskill for their people within the organisations. So tell us about some of the training programs and the support PD stuff that you're doing with CILT.
Where do I start?
I know you've got so much that's going on.
Well, we sit on a number of industry advisory groups around some of the major universities, globally as well as nationally. Within Victoria, I sit on probably about 5, as well as sitting on the Victorian Skills Commissioner Industry Advisory Group. Yeah. So we basically look at the content of some of these courses that are provided by the universities and provide feedback to make sure that those students are job ready when they come out of their courses and are looking for employment. We do provide support for those students as well where we can. We have a lot of our members that actually do have graduate, intern and cadetship programs, and where we can place some of those students, we endeavour to do so. We are working on something which I'll talk about a bit later that will assist even further there. But, it's important as far as skills go. It's not just the tertiary education. There's also ongoing skills once we enter our career where we find we have some gaps that we weren't taught through our diploma or through our degree. We actually have micro-credentials that we are about to launch, which will be short intensives. There'll be maybe 1 day, 2 day, 3 day programs that will really keep those working in the industry upskilled on different things that they're finding they have gaps in. And this pandemic has actually highlighted a number of gaps, probably in planning for a pandemic about our career, and now we're faced with it. So that's something that will be amongst those credentials about to be released. Yeah,
no, it's important, Karyn. I think that definitely the programs that you're involved with personally that you bring back then into the CILT organisation, and some of those, what you talked about there sounds really exciting, these short courses. It is more important than ever that individuals can, and the companies around the sector can really have stay up to date with the latest and new trends occurring as well. Because as you say, once you've left tertiary education, you go into the workforce, it is really important to stay up to date with all the latest changes, because things evolve very quickly across supply chain, especially across international trade as well. So congratulations on that, and we look forward to hearing a bit more about that when you're ready to release all those new exciting courses and programs. Another thing I wanted to touch on, Karyn, you mentioned there, which is an important point. This crisis has really showcased and emphasised the importance of supply chain in the broader sector. What are there any sort of common themes that have come out where you've been surprised yourself about companies saying, look, I never realised how important that this supply chain factor are? Is that something you've been pleasantly surprised with as a positive out of this situation?
I think there's also elements where there's some fragility within the supply chain.
Yeah.
The reliance that some of our retail outlets have had on the imported cheaper option products.
Yeah.
Coming from countries that are perhaps not so popular at the moment. Their shelves are diminishing quite quickly, and their source obviously was from some of those countries where the borders are closed quite severely. We've also had some of the food chain. Interesting story was said to me the other day that we've had, we grow bananas here in Australia, in Queensland. There's been a drop in sales in bananas, and someone said, well, why would that happen? And this is from one of our members that is actually a farmer. He said, well, you think about it, we have school children that are now homeschooling. Mum doesn't put the banana into the lunchbox anymore. You multiply that across all of our primary school children. It's not saying that every child has a banana in their lunchbox, but there's a good demand there for a banana to go into the lunchbox, and as a result, sales have dropped. That was an interesting development. But also, I think even when we look at the logistics around, patient management, and unfortunately those that have come down with COVID, and how fragile our health services are when it comes to a crisis like we're experiencing now, and ventilators, and how much of a short supply of ventilators are there in the market, and how some of our stores are becoming quite innovative in making homemade ventilators. I think there was a gentleman that was using some products from Bunnings, had created this tent-like thing as a workaround to a ventilator that's saving lives. But we take things for granted, I think, in our community, that things will take care of themselves. We're a developed country, and it's not until we actually find ourselves in a pandemic that we see the fragility that's really there, and how reliant we are on imports or exports, on how reliant we are to get goods from one part of the country to the other, and when we have border closures, how that impacts on supply. So it's quite interesting. And then also what happens in a distribution centre, whether it be food or whether it be parcel, when we have an infection, and then the impact on our performance then to maintaining some sort of supply out there in our stores or in delivery. On the delivery side, it's about the performance of delivery and the time delays in delivery. But I think with the food one, we saw that with Safeway, when Safeway's distribution centre was infected, and then we look at the supermarkets, suddenly there were certain products that were not showing on the shelves anymore. People were thinking it was panic buying. Perhaps it wasn't just the panic buying. And then we saw the workaround where they shut down some supermarkets and turned them into mini distribution centres to fill that gap. So it's how quickly even some of these organisations are adapting to situations they find themselves in and becoming more agile in the way they actually operate, I think is quite interesting. And I think there's a lot of case studies being written on the effects of the pandemic in the supply chain area. And that's really, really interesting to think that that's coming out now and we're not even through it yet.
No, that's right. And I think that one thing that has definitely shone the light on supply chain is the growth of e-commerce and people buying online because they've been forced to. So there is a whole consensus that it's brought forward e-commerce growth by 3 to 5 years at a minimum. So that's definitely made companies realise the importance of the distribution, the fulfillment, the whole overall supply chain methodologies. So there are some massive gaps, as you mentioned, Karyn, but there's also some great opportunities for companies to realise and recognise the importance of how a good supply chain will actually help your business not just be maintained and continue to operate, but also to grow in the future. So associations like CILT are so powerfully important and critical to those companies to really make sure that they get the most out of those supply chain opportunities. So
yes, we're also thinking, we don't see this as a problem. We see this as a time of opportunity.
yeah, absolutely.
And it's a time where innovation really starts to blossom.
Yeah.
It's a situation where people are unfortunately forced into this situation. And what we see is a lot of technology being researched and developed at the moment, ready for implementation, realizing that our world of the future post-COVID may not be the same as what it was pre-COVID. Yeah. And even for associations, having to put a lot of your events online, running conferences via a streaming process. And what we're doing is actually starting to build our community hub as our members come together and chat on an online environment. Currently, we're using WhatsApp globally. Yep. That's just pinging 24/7 for me, as different members and different branches are posting some of their challenges that they're facing in their country, but it's keeping us up to date with what is happening around the world. For Australia, we're looking at building our member community hub where members can bring their challenges into that community, and experts in that area can provide assistance, or some members that are experiencing the same problems can also provide feedback on how they're dealing with that situation. So we're actually becoming more engaged, and our theme has been stronger together. Yep. And yes, the stronger we are is when we actually come together and share information and share our challenges and work through those solutions.
Yeah, great. Yeah, great advice and great work that you're doing with the association, Karyn. Always a pleasure to have you on the show, and look forward to touching base again very soon. Hopefully, as things improve, we can come into studio. We'll chat again in person. So great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being generous with your time and sharing your insights. I recommend to all the viewers in the audience to get in touch with CILT. They've got a whole range of programs, and you really need to, as Karyn said, collaborate, share your experiences, and learn from others as well. So thanks again, Karyn. Stay safe and well. Look forward to speaking very, very soon.
Thank you, Lawrence, and you.
Cheers. So thanks for joining us today on the show. I hope you found it very useful, beneficial, and insightful, because there are a number of associations who you've all heard from today who can help you in many ways across your import-export business, or even as a service provider. Get in touch with all of them. They've got a whole range of programs that can support you, and we look forward to joining you again next week. Take care.